between these two teams. Obviously, there's one old guy on the other side of the equation. If I look at last night, though, I think really what it came down for me is looking at the Suns' two best players in Devin Booker and Chris Paul, and Devin Booker's game not having matured enough, and Chris Paul's having matured too much. He's playing the old guy, I've got to fool the referee, I'm living off of guile game, and he's not getting it done that way. And meanwhile, Devin Booker has not ever had the experience of running a team, particularly at this level. He's done it, and with mixed success during the regular season. So if you don't have either one of those guys operating at optimum value and ability, then that's going to take away your third best player, DeAndre Ayton, who really lives off of what those two guys do. So the Clippers are the older, more experienced team. The hedge on that is they don't always play like the older, more experienced team. When they do, you get results like last night. When they don't, then you get results like you did in Game 4.
Yeah, it's Paul George's. He had one of the great halves of all time. I said this earlier. One of the reasons Kyrie, AD, Kawhi Leonard, I don't always know emotionally what I get in big games. I don't always know physically what I get. We always talk about AD is the world's best two. Is it possible that Paul George is, this sounds weird, he's a one, but he's a lower one? You know what I mean?
I would say, yeah, he's a hologram. He can be a one, he can be a two, but you never know which one you're going to get. Here's the reality. Everybody wants to get to this place where we're comfortable with Paul George. To your point, we want to say this is what Paul George is. Folks, I have an announcement for you. We're all on this boat. It's going to be rocky until Paul George stops playing. We're never getting to land, okay? We're always going to be on the boat, and it's always going to be pitching one way or another. You are going to get games where he looks like a one, where he's amazing. And then you're going to get quarters where he's going to look amazing. The third quarter, he was on. First quarter, he was a disaster. I mean, it was fortunate that all the other Clippers had it going. The Clippers are at their best, and Paul George is at his best when he defends, when he rebounds, and he sees himself as part of this collective offensively. When he's aggressive, but he's not trying to do too much.
Yeah.
Offensively, his game is a real feel and flow game. So it's going to look good at times, and then times it's not. Game 4, there was no flow to that game. Paul George, no flow to his offensive game. Game 5, Clippers find some flow. The ball's moving. Everybody's got it going. Paul George joins the party, and you've got it going. I think that's the distinction, is that we want to put Paul George in that category as a fire starter, and he's really not. He has the talent to be, but his decision-making ultimately does not allow him to be that. So if you can minimize the decisions that he has to make, if he's just decisive, I'm either going to go or I'm going to move it offensively, and then he rebounds and he defends the way he can because he's such an elite athlete, then you are getting the best of Paul George. And by the way, let's not be giving him an out because he's played the most minutes of anybody in the playoffs, as if fatigue is somehow the reason that we get these up and down performances. His first quarter was his bad quarter. His third quarter was his best quarter. If I'm going to have an issue with fatigue, I would think it would happen in the second half rather than at the beginning of the game.
All right, Scottie Pippen's got a book out. I don't think he would have written it without the documentary by Michael Jordan. It feels like a lot of grievances. It feels like cable political television where it's just grievance.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Jordan's documentary was celebrating what was great and rocky and tough about the dynasty. There's claims now from Scottie that he didn't get a final shot. Kukoc did. It was racial with Phil Jackson. What's your reaction to that?
Is the book called Axe to Grind? Was that the title of the book? Because it should have been. Look, that's who Scottie is. The idea that Phil Jackson's decision to have Tony Kukoc take the last shot in the game, I mean, at the time, nobody looked at it and went, wow, that's a curious decision. Why is he dissing Scottie like that? It was more like, Yeah, I could see why he would do that because Tony is the better knockdown shooter in the last situation like that. So, and by the way, did he not? Yeah, he made the shot. So what are we talking about? Right. Why are we re-adjudicating this at this point? Here's the one thing I will tell you is that at that time, and with Scottie's era of NBA players, the belief was that the rise of European players was the NBA's way of maintaining a certain percentage of white players in the league. The U.S., American-born was because it allowed the league to maintain a certain number of white players in it. So I don't know if that thought, that whether you believe it or not.
That had been with the Bulls from 87, battled through the Pistons and every other team that we had to get to those 3 championships. Wouldn't you give Scottie Pippen one opportunity to get a last-second shot without Michael Jordan? Like 1 year without Michael Jordan. Can I get one shot? Like, I'm doing all the dirty work.
That's BS. They actually drew up 2 plays for Scottie Pippen, and he missed on both. Therefore, they finally went to this shot. Sorry, radio audience. Tony Kukoc, now that wasn't the shot, but they'd gone throughout that game to Pippen twice. First of all, let's acknowledge this. Kyrie and Kevin Love did not get a lot of credit for the Cavs title. LeBron did. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played with Magic on the Showtime Lakers. They're known as Magic Showtime Lakers, and Kareem's the leading scorer in league history. So let's be honest. When you play with a Magic and a Michael and a LeBron, you get minimized. They're called Magic Showtime Lakers. Many people believe Kareem's the best player ever if you really go to stats and numbers and longevity and defense and offense and unstoppable. It's Magic Showtime Lakers. Kyrie hit the big shot for the Cavs. It's LeBron's title with the Cavs. That's the reality of it. So Scottie is never going to get the love that he probably deserves because Michael was the best player and the most glamorous and the coolest and had the biggest shoe deal. So that's just the reality of playing with the greatest Batman ever. You get minimized as a Robin. But I covered Scottie for a couple years in Portland. And here's the part that Scottie doesn't want to talk about. Scottie always wanted to be viewed as a 1, paid like a 1, get all the accessories of a 1, the respect of a 1. But if he played poorly, he wouldn't be around for the tough questions. That's part of being a 1. Availability. Paul George, availability. You want to be a 1, you got to be ready to play, ready to talk about failure, ready, regardless of how you feel the flu game, you got to be there. Scottie, and I've seen this a lot in pro sports, a lot of people want to be seen as a 1, talked about as a 1, paid as a 1, but they don't want to do all the 1 stuff. And the longer Pippen took control of the Bulls after Michael left, the more he unraveled. And here's another thing that's not talked about when I covered Scottie. The idea that Phil Jackson did not draw a play up for him. That's very interesting. Scottie was never a closer. He was just an incredible player and an incredible athlete. But I covered the best non-final series, I believe, ever. Lakers, Blazers went 7. That's the iconic Kobe to Shaq slam dunk. I was in behind the basket. I covered that series. Unbelievable. There for every minute of every game. Best series, non-final series I've ever seen. So if Phil Jackson is racist, and that was the insinuation, for not drawing up a play for Scottie Pippen instead Kukoc, though Phil drew up a couple for Scottie, go to that game 7. Scottie was 3 for 10. I thought he's a 1. Do you know what he was in the fourth quarter of that game as a Blazer for the Blazers against the Lakers? He was 0 for 3 and a minus 17 in the fourth quarter. Mike Dunleavy didn't draw up plays for Scottie Pippen. Because that wasn't what Scottie was. Scottie was a slasher, a hustler, a defender, a great athlete. He's not the guy you drew up plays for.